Perhaps the only place on Earth that remains largely unexplored and filled with mysteries is the oceans. Oceans cover more than 70% of the Earth's surface. While the average depth of most oceans is around 3.7 kilometers, its depth exceeds 11 kilometers. The Mariana Trench, a place that hosts creatures waiting to be discovered despite the freezing cold and unimaginable pressure deep below. But do we really know what is hidden at such depths? So how was this trench discovered? What does it have to do with the Soviet Union? And what was the mystery behind the two strange sound recordings that came from the Mariana Trench over time? In this video, we will search for answers to all of these questions and embark together on a mysterious journey into the depths of the Mariana Trench. About 180 million years ago, during the Jurassic period, while dinosaurs ruled the land, a battle began in the depths of the ocean. Two massive tectonic plates slowly but relentlessly collided with one another. The Pacific Plate began to slide beneath the Philippine Plate. This enormous weight pulled the ocean floor downward, and over time, the deepest rift on the planet was formed, the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench stretches for 2,550 kilometers along the ocean floor. The deepest point of this massive rift lies at exactly 10,984 meters below the surface. Recent measurements suggest that its depth exceeds 11,000 meters. In other words, this is a place as wide as the continents horizontally and deep enough vertically to swallow Mount Everest. And in 1872, this place was about to be discovered. The ship HMS Challenger set out on one of the greatest scientific ocean exploration missions in history. With this expedition, they aimed to map the ocean floor and traveled approximately 70,000 miles around the world. This distance was equivalent to traveling 1/3 of the way between the Earth and the Moon. During the journey, they took measurements at 350 different locations. While measuring, they used an iron rod attached to a long rope. When the rod touched the bottom, the depth was calculated. Through these voyages, the first rough map of the ocean floor was created. During one of these journeys, they stopped near Guam Island in the Western Pacific and lowered the rope. The rope began to unwind from the wooden reel with a creaking sound. Minutes passed, yet the rope kept descending and the reel spun even faster. 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, 7,000 meters. The crew looked at each other in astonishment. The end of the rope still had not arrived. Finally, the reel stopped. When they checked the measured depth, they couldn't believe their eyes. 4,475 fathoms, 8,185 meters. Silence suddenly engulfed every corner of the ship. Up until that moment, none of the depths they had encountered had ever been this extreme. Beneath the sea lay a void so deep it appeared bottomless, as if they were facing a hidden-lie rift of the Earth itself. That day, without even realizing it, the crew of HMS Challenger wrote the first page of a discovery that would go down in history. At this point, let me share a few lesser-known facts. The depth recorded during the first discovery was actually inaccurate. Ocean currents and the bending of the rope were not taken into account. Another important detail is that the idea of mapping the ocean floor did not originate from purely scientific motives, but from military ones. The ultimate goal was to identify regions suitable for laying underwater cables and to optimize naval routes for military purposes. Returning to the story, years later in 1951, the British research vessel HMS Challenger 2 decided to use the then-new sonar technology. In fact, sonar systems had been invented in the early 1900s and began to be used in the 1940s to detect enemy submarines. Sonar works by sending sound waves underwater. These waves travel until they hit an object and then bounce back when they strike solid surfaces. This allows researchers to determine what lies beneath the sea and how deep it is. So they asked, why not use this technology to map the ocean floor? It was far cheaper and much faster than lowering ropes into the sea to take measurements. The biggest question on everyone's mind was just how deep the Mariana Trench really was. When HMS Challenger 2 conducted its measurements, another astonishing discovery was made. The screen showed a depth of approximately 10,900 meters, the deepest point in the ocean. If a 102-story Empire State Building were placed there, it would look like a toy at the bottom. After this discovery, the deepest point was named Challenger Deep in honor of the ship. People at the time were eager to learn how this trench had formed and what it looked like, because it was the deepest point on our planet. Now there was only one thing they wanted: to go down there. Journey into the depths. They wanted to descend to the deepest point of the Mariana Trench and conduct research, but there was a major problem. The pressure at the deepest point was over 1,000 times greater than normal atmospheric pressure. This was equivalent to having the weight of 3 Eiffel Towers pressing down on you. To visualize what this would look like, a team conducted an experiment. They placed the head of a mannequin into a pressure chamber and exposed it to extreme pressure. The result was both fascinating and unsettlingly humorous. The mannequin's head shrank significantly due to the pressure, even though it was made of dense rubber. Just imagining what would happen to a real human was terrifying. Clearly, a solution was needed. In 1953, the eccentric Swiss scientist Auguste Piccard wanted to become the first human to descend into Challenger Deep and observe it firsthand. To achieve this, a pressure-resistant submersible had to be built. In the early 1950s, Piccard designed a special deep-sea vehicle known as a bathyscaphe, capable of withstanding extreme pressure. Unlike traditional submarines, which are designed for horizontal movement and long-distance travel, bathyscaphes were built for vertical descent and reaching maximum depths. Following this invention, initial work began in Italy in 1953. The first test dives were conducted in 1954, but they could only reach depths of about 3,500 meters. In 1958, the U.S. Navy purchased the bathyscaphe Trieste and modified it, redesigning it to withstand depths of up to 11,000 meters. The Trieste's first descent into the Mariana Trench finally took place on January 23, 1960. Instead of Auguste Piccard, it was his son, Jacques Piccard, and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh, who volunteered for the mission. Auguste was already quite old and could not take the risk. The two men would spend 9 hours traveling in an extremely cramped space. It was a dangerous mission, but all preparations had been completed. They began descending slowly at a speed of about 3 miles per hour. After 3,000 feet, they were completely enveloped in darkness. After a while, they witnessed something extraordinary. They saw bioluminescent marine creatures emitting light on their own. It felt as if they were inside a fantasy world. After approximately 5 hours, they reached the bottom, 36,000 feet deep. A place that 99.9% of humanity would never witness firsthand. Darkness itself, an unknown world wrapped in silence. As the team approached the final stage of the descent, they observed soft, mud-like sediment and very few marine creatures through the windows. One particularly striking sight was a flat, white fish approximately 30 centimeters long, resting on the seabed. According to scientists, this should have been impossible. It was believed that bony fish could not survive at such depths, but perhaps science was wrong. Jacques Piccard later wrote in his book about the journey, "The answer to a question biologists had been asking for decades was suddenly right in front of us. Could there be life in the deepest parts of the ocean? Yes, there was life, right there before our eyes." Due to sediment stirred up during the descent, the camera footage became blurry. The team had no choice but to begin their ascent. Still, they had accomplished the impossible. They had reached the deepest point ever visited by humans. Naturally, the United States was quick to use this achievement to its advantage. After the Soviet Union became the first nation to reach space in 1957, The U.S. presented itself in 1960 as the first country to reach the deepest point on Earth. A mission initiated by a Swiss scientist had been claimed by America. Not surprising at all. Long before this, the region encompassing this depth, anything below 6,000 meters, was known as the Hadal Zone. Its name comes from Hades, the god of the underworld who ruled over the realm of the dead. This darkest, coldest, and most unreachable part of the oceans felt like an underwater reflection of the land of the dead. And perhaps, for this very reason, years later, mysterious sound recordings coming from the depths of the Mariana Trench led some to wonder whether something else truly lived there. Chapter 3. The Mysterious Sounds, Music. In 1997, a sound recorded by NOAA distinct from massive ocean noises like the Blob could be detected from as far as 3,000 kilometers away. It bore no resemblance to the sounds of waves, earthquakes, or any known marine animals. Some scientists suggested it might belong to a gigantic sea creature. Others believed it pointed to an unknown geological event on the ocean floor. Yet no definitive evidence was ever found. In late 2014, another strange sound was recorded west of the Mariana Trench. NOAA's deep-sea microphones first captured a low growl, followed by a rising, high-pitched ringing. For a long time, its mystery remained unsolved. After months of analysis, scientists concluded that it was most likely an unusual call of Balænoptera acuturostrata, the minke whale. At least, that was the closest explanation. Still, one question remains unanswered. Why was this sound only heard during certain periods, and specifically around the Mariana Trench? Even today, the true source of those mysterious sounds, and what lies within the depths of the Hadal Zone, remains unknown. Perhaps one day, our technology will allow us to uncover the truth hidden beyond that darkness. But until then, the Mariana Trench will continue to be one of the greatest mysteries of our planet.